I'm sending you this video because a friend and myself started working on this project for the new bus terminal, but we realized we just don't have the horsepower to make this happen. We're just two small guys, but we realized that if we were bigger, we might have a chance. Then I thought, wow, let's just send this to big, because if anybody should win this competition, it should really be big. They have the ability to do this project. So in tongue-in-cheek, here we go. It's not about anarchy, it's about alchemy. It's not about evolution, it's about revolution. It's conclusive, not inclusive. So in evaluating the project, city, motion, use, the properties, the Port Authority of New Jersey and the properties that they own, we understood that they do not want to basically buy new properties. So we thought, okay, let's take a look at it and see what the relationship is between the existing properties in New Jersey and New York, and the North and the South. As we talked about it, we realized, why is there one tunnel currently that all the traffic has to come into? All those buses, all that congestion. Maybe there really should be two, one at one end of New York and one at the other end, one at the Holland Tunnel and one at the Lincoln Tunnel. From there, we started to think about how this could work. We also thought about the fact that, well, maybe they shouldn't be terminals, the whole idea of a dead end. Maybe it should be a link, that it's a continuous loop. So we started to take a look at, like, okay, what would that mean? How could we do this? How can we accomplish this? So the first thing we did is we started to look at the roadway, the links between the Holland Tunnel and the Lincoln Tunnel and the West Side Highway. We started also to take a look at some history in terms of way other people have approached buildings and highways and roadways. As you know, on the West Side Highway, there's the West Side Highway, there's a bike path, and there's also a service road. So in looking at those, we said, well, maybe we could do something with that, but also maybe we could just put the whole thing underground, underneath the West Side Highway. So we took a look at some options doing that. Then we thought, boy, can you imagine trying to do that in the West Side Highway? That would be a mess. The biggest problem we talked about, though, was about the hub, or a turntable, or some way to turn the buses around. That's when we started talking more and more about this idea of, why do they have to turn around in the city? Why don't they just make a huge loop in New Jersey and New York? From there, we started looking at, like, different ways that this could happen. If they needed to have a turnaround or a place to bring the buses into parks, they could actually come off of the West Side area and go into the water, which the Port Authority controls, and they could happen on piers. So we started to take a look at, what if we had tubes so that these buses could run through tubes along an elevated area? Then we took a look at, like, well, maybe it could span the whole highway, some sort of a structure that could span the whole highway. Then we took a look at, well, like, what if we could just make it work in that one section of the highway between the river and also between the highway itself? And we started to take a look at things like, maybe what we could do is put two levels of buses running north and south, keep the lower area open, and make the mechanical on the top. And then make parks or walkways on the two sides, one facing the river and one facing the street. After that, we started taking a look at different ways of constructing it. Maybe it becomes a huge cantilevered bridge that could span the whole thing. So we started to develop those ideas with walkways on the two sides, between the city and also the waterfront, and then we started to develop those ideas. Something like this that could span both sides. So you could have the West Side Highway, you have the roadway, the bicycles, and then the service road. And then maybe there's property enough on the side that we can make this happen on the port area, on the side where all the harbor's at. So here's the docks on this side. Here is the two levels of the buses. And then maybe what we could do is we would build a tensile structure and put the mechanical stuff on the top. Sort of like this. And then there would be these platforms that would project different ways, and then there'd be walkways up to the top to be able to get to the buses on and off on both sides. So that concept made us start to take a closer look at how the highway worked. And we found that that bike path and that roadway that runs there is pretty much consistent all the way through the city. As a matter of fact, it could even link all the way up to the Washington Bridge. So we took a look at that whole path and all the cross streets where the nodes could happen and people could walk across the streets. From there, we went to, how could we really adjust this a little bit more. So then the idea of like maybe the turnarounds could happen in the harbor for the buses coming back and forth, as opposed to like on the land. So say that way the Port Authority doesn't have to buy any more property. Here you can see the two ends. Here's the roadway between it. Here's the two areas. Then we took a look at like, what would this look like? Well, here's a diagram, of course, of the High Line. Here's a picture of the High Line. And here's a picture of a prototype in some ways for us, which was the Oakland Art Museum, in terms of the planting and how the rooftops could be utilized possibly. And then also how the stairs could work up and down in different areas between the streets, what the upper levels and the lower levels could look like, the planting would look like, the trees in the top could look like, outside areas, down below. Again, back to the street, to take a look at the street and how's the best ways for it to work. We also thought that this would become a linear park, so that there would be a linear park through the whole city, a raised linear park that could be on the rooftop. It could be for playing. It could be for walkways. It could be for activities on the top of the roof, and then in the other areas there could be open gardens. There could be bike paths on the roof. There could be, besides on the lower level, there could be a great lawn area, the great green lawn area. There could be all kinds of activities happening within the structure as it tiered down, and also the stuff that could happen on top of it. So as again we went back, we took a look at the road systems, how it seemed to be able to work fine. Then we started to develop some concept ideas of how that would look, and then how that there'd be maybe these different streets that would come through, like on 34th Street and 14th Street. There would be these kind of like pieces that would come up where you'd be on the top, and you could also walk down, or you could get on the top of the roof and walk down to the street level and have escalators inside. Then we said, okay, let's put all these ideas together and make up one idea. So this basically was one of the ideas, our last idea that we started to formulate. So the idea here was that what we would do is we would have the buses, we would have on the top of the roof, we would have a windmill that would come up. It's a screw windmill, so that it would spin. The screw windmill would generate also interest and celebration along the way at all the main points, but it would also generate power, and would take the power and put it into a magnetic resonance system that would be fed to the roads. So the roads would have implanted in them magnetic resonance that would actually charge the buses' batteries, because we assume that by now they'll all be electric buses by the time we finish building this structure. And then, so that's the ecological component to it. And then, of course, there is the service road still below. There's the bike path still open. And then there are these trays that would step back and forth that become the parkways, sliding back and forth as required. So in the end, you would have a structure that would be planted like this, and conceptually it would look something like that. So this basically is this is a picture of course, the long green grass and the Paris. Comes the Eiffel Tower, and maybe both ends of this. There's, 34th Street is, the Holland Tunnel as well as the Lincoln Tunnel. There's some sort of significant piece that's put at the two ends. But this could be a kind of a green thing that happens on the very top. A great green field that goes all the way. So these are our ideas. Please use them in good health and anything you want to. Thank you very much.